Sorry. All right. We're back to the 1940s. That's my most favorite time of literary history in America is the 1940s. Right after World War II or during World War II. But we're going to America this time, all right? We're in America. And what's going on in America is two literary movements. Um, the first that is emerging, and everybody loves it, and they make a big fuss about it, is like a countercultural movement, all right, in the 1940s. So let's look at it. The Beat Generation and its signature poetic style originated in New York City during the mid 1940s. Core figures like Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, and William S. Burroughs met around Columbia University, laying the groundwork for a counterculture literary movement that rejected post war middle class conformity. Great. All right. A bunch of rebellious writers that want social change. All right. So we understand that sex, drugs, and rock and roll and being cool and hip, right? What about those people that weren't that cool? That people did not like at all, really, because they thought they were like weirdos and nut jobs during that time in the 1940s. These are the people that were the outsiders. And we're not talking about the beatniks here. We're talking about a different literary movement called the confessional poets. So, no sex, drugs, and rock and roll on this one. But let's look what's happening in the 1940s at that time. In the 1940s, the study and treatment of mental illness underwent massive shifts driven by World War II. Influential treatments include controversial prefrontal lobotomies and electroconvulsion therapy, while the war's psychological toll on soldiers catalyzed the National Mental Health Act of 1946 and formalized clinical psychology as a distinct professional field. All right, and we can go into all the quackery that was involved in that, right? But like lobotomies, electroshock therapy, only used in massively severe cases, they say. Like really bad cases. Like the dude or the chick is just you're afraid for your life in the same room with them. That kind of thing. So anyways, so what do we get out of this movement? Confessional. And we'll go into it. I'm just going to introduce you real quick to this style of writing. Prepare yourself. It's disturbing to some degree. It's not going to be like Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg. We're going to go smoke some weed and drink some coffee or something like that. Sounds fun, and say the establishment is down and we're tuning in and tuning out. All right. That's for the majority, the mainstream of America, beginning in the 1940s, traveling around all over the country, living life as a new age hippie kind of thing, wearing black, being artsy, all right? That's the vibe in America. But the undertone in America at that time was psychology and the toll that World War II created on the human psyche at that time. And who do we get? Confessional, poetry, and poems. And we'll get into that. But I want to start with this quote by Robert Lowell. The phrase, cut your own throat, now, is a famous climax by Robert Lowell's 1946 poem, After the Surprising Conversions. So remember, cut your own throat, now. Like, whoa, Grandma and Grandpa were writing some crazy shit, huh? Back in the day. Like, there were crazy parent. Like, some parents must have been real crazy. I'm assuming he was a parent. It was the 1940s. Everybody was a parent at that time, right? Anyways, so let's look at confessional poetry. Confessional poetry is a mid 20th century American literary movement focused deeply on personal autobiographical experiences, featuring key figures like Sylvia Plath, Robert Lowell, and Anne Sexton, all of which were admitted into mental institutions and met an untimely demise, all self-inflicted. So, all right, what is confessional poetry? All right. Confessional poetry, or confessionalism, is a style of poetry that emerged in the United States during the 1950s and early 1960s. It is sometimes classified as a form of postmodernism. It has been described as poetry of the personal or I, focusing on the extreme moments of individual experience of psyche and personal drama, including previous occasions, still taboo matters such as mental illness, sexuality, suicide, often set in relation to broader social themes. The confessional poets engaged with personal experiences has been explained by literary critics as the effort to distance oneself from the horrifying social realities of the 20th century. Events like the Holocaust and the Cold War and the existential threat brought by the proliferation of nuclear weapons had made public matters daunting for both confessional poets and their readers. The confessional poets were also worked in opposition to idealization of domesticity in the 1950s by revealing unhappiness in their own homes. The school of confessional poetry was associated with poets who were redefining American poetry in the 1950s and 60s, including Robert Lowell, Sylvia Plath, John Berryman, Anne Sexton, and W.D. Snodgrass. Okay, we just came out of World War II in the 1940s, all right? We're entering into the 50s, so somewhere in between that time, we're creating this genre called confessional poems. You can even put, from my last video, Paul Anschel, Paul Celan's Totus Fuga fits into that category too. Confessional poetry, right? Would you say it is? I don't know. Would you say it's his experience he's telling you? Poetry wasn't always confessional. People didn't use things like I, like he said, or me. So we're entering into the 50s at this point, all right? So we got a decade of maybe 15 years. 15 years in, like 5 years into the 40s, a decade in the 50s, and then by the time the 60s is gone, we don't really hear about confessional poetry. It's just stuck into the mainstream at that point. We don't even look back at it as like a foundational literary movement. Now it's just, we do it all the time. No. All right. It wasn't always like that. I mean, if you look back, poetry wasn't always like that. So let's go into. Now, this chick, Sylvia Plath, she reigns supreme. undoubtedly. She's like the queen of confessional poetry. Um, she's born in 1932 and died in. She didn't have much of a long life, about 30 some years, I guess, before she self deleted herself, I guess they call it nowadays. Ouch. Um, but which was common for these poets at the time. Uh, but Sylvia Plath was an American poet and author who is credited with advanced confessional poetry. Her work is known for its intense imagery and use of rhyme and alliteration. Plath's most famous collection Ariel includes the poem Daddy, Lady Lazarus, and the Moon and the Yew Tree. Um, She also published a autobiographical novel, The Bell Jar, under the pseudonym Victoria Lucas. Plath's greatest impact came from all of her death, after her death by suicide in 1963. She put her kids in one room, sealed herself up in the kitchen with tape, and put her head in a gas oven. So after going to the mental institution about 1,000 times and hating her marriage and her life and hated being a mom and hated doing all the, I guess she was a feminist deep down inside. I guess. I don't know. I don't know what was really going on with her at the time, except that she was very unhappy, very miserable about her life. She didn't like the 1940s. And if you ever listen to, like I said, music from the 1940s, like on NPR for like an extended period of time, it's very dramatic, melodramatic. Um, it's intense. And I wonder if that influenced a lot of people's psychology then. So we're entering into a period of mental health. People who are struggling with after the war, with feelings of inadequacy, not liking life. All right, so life sucks after the 1940s. It's not as picturesque as we think, we believe. These people were really struggling back then. All right. It's the 1940s. So we just came out of World War II. This is interesting. I think we really need to go through this to understand what we're going to read in her poem, Lady Lazarus. It's short in terms of what it explains, but Wikipedia does a good job, I think. All right. Lady Lazarus is a poem by Sylvia Plath, originally included in Ariel, which was published in 1965, 2 years after her death by suicide. The poem is commonly used as an example of her writing style. It is considered one of Plath's best poems and has been subject to a plethora of literary criticism since its publication. It is commonly interpreted as an expression of Plath's suicidal attempts and thoughts. The poem is divided in 28 terci stanzas. We can look at is composed of 3 lines of poetry forming a stanza or a complete poem, and is written in free verse. Genre: Lady Lazarus and Sylvia Plath poetry catalog falls under the literary genre confessional poetry. According to the American poet and critic Maka Rosenthal, Plath's poetry is confessional due to the way that she uses psychological shame and vulnerability, centers herself as a speaker, and represents the civilization she is living in. Her husband, the poet Ted Hughes, has characterized her poem as having strong autobiographical elements as well. According to scholars, Lady Parvin Geisom, Lady Lazarus is written in a light verse containing the intense desire to die and be born. It is a poem of personal pain, suffering, and revenge. All right. I'm not because of, but this is what we need to look at. All right. German identity in World War II. Plath describes the speaker's oppression with the use of allusions and image invoking World War II era Nazi Germany. It is known as one of her Holocaust poems, along with Daddy and Mary's Song. Plath was the daughter of a German immigrant, Otto Plath. According to Plath's Plath's biographer, Heather Clark, as a child, Plath was proud of her German heritage, but this began to shift during World War II uh, be, when she began feeling shame about her ethnicity. According to Clark, Sylvia understood from a young age that the German identity she shared with her father was somehow dangerous, a secret source of shame. Holocaust imagery. The poem makes several references to the Holocaust through imagery such as bright as a Nazi lampshade, and in the last two stanzas, ere God, her ere Lucifer, beware, beware, out of the ash I rise with my red hair and I eat men like air. These stanzas address the deadlines of the Holocaust in general. Ghassemi writes, and more particularly the burning of dead bodies that occurred in the crematoriums at um, the concentration camp. I'm not going to read through all these because, well, but I'll just pick up points that I feel. But the poem alludes to the mythological bird called the phoenix, all right? The speaker describes her attempts at committing suicide not as a failures, but as a successful resurrections, like those described in the tales of the biblical character Lazarus and the myth of the phoenix. By the end of the poem, the speaker has transformed into a firebird, effectively making her rebirth, which some critics liken to a demonic transformation. Okay, so we understand that Lady Lazarus. Who is she? All right. She's coming back from the dead, like in the Bible, but like Lazarus, but it's Sylvia Plath. All right. I've done it again, 1 year in every 10. I manage it, a sort of walking miracle, my skin bright as a Nazi lampshade, my right foot a paperweight, my face a featureless fine Jew linen. Peel off the napkin. Oh, my enemy, do I terrify, the nose, the eye pits, the full set of teeth. The sour breath will vanish in a day. Soon, soon the flesh, the grave cave, 8 will be at home on me. And I, a smiling woman, I am only 30. I like the cat. I have 9 times to die. This is number 3. What a trash to annihilate each decade. What a million filaments. The peanut crunching crowd shoves in to see. Then unwrap me hand and foot, the big strip tease. Gentlemen, ladies, these are my hands, my knees. I may be skin and bone. Nevertheless, I am the same identical woman. The first time it happened, I was 10. It was an accident. The second time I meant to last it out and not come back at all. I rocked shut. As a seashell, they had to call and pick the worms off me like sticky pearls. Dying is an art, like everything else. I do it exceptionally well. I do it so it feels like hell. I do it so it feels real. I guess you could say I've the call. It's easy enough to do it in a cell. It's easy enough to do it and stay put. It's the theatrical. Come back in broad day to the same place, the same face, the same brute, a muse shout. A miracle. That knocks me out. There is a charge for the eyeing of my scars. There is a charge for the hearing of my heart. It really goes. and there is a charge, a very large charge, for a word or a touch, or a bit of blood, or a piece of my hair or my clothes. Air doctor, so air enemy, I am your opus, I am your valuable, the pure gold baby, that melts to a shriek. I turn and burn. Do not think I underestimate your great concern. Ash, ash, you poke and stir. Flesh, blood, there's nothing there. A cake of soap, a wedding ring, a gold filling. Ere God, ere Lucifer, beware, beware. Out of the ash I rise with my red hair, and I eat men like air. Great style of writing. You know, we're coming into a completely different form of writing. And this is all attributed to psychology. Psychology is the founding point, um, because it emerges at a very traumatizing time in world history, and that's World War II. She's she's going through. This is called her Holocaust poems, because this is we've talked about Paul Celan, right? Who was a Jew in Transnistria. Uh, all right. Now we're looking at Sylvia Plath, who's associated with National Socialism. Her family's from Germany. So, yeah. I guess that can cause a little stress too in her life at the time too. I don't know. Not everybody's like, and I still saw it for many years too. I've seen people, it still goes on. Everyone associates Germany as, yeah, no matter how well they wash their image for the world, they still have to address that. But even people who are descendants of it, who have no association in real life to that period of time, do carry some form of guilt, I'm sure, you know. I'm sure the Japanese too, they have to. I mean, no matter how many times you apologize or not apologize at that point, you're just like, I don't know what to do. That was like grandma and grandpa, or great grandma and grandpa, you know, even when it comes down to America. So the psychology's involved. We're coming out of really bad periods in history. And and then out of World War II and the Holocaust, we start to see a new form of writing emerge around the world, even in America. And Sylvia Plath dominating that scene, you know. So, anyways, she rises like a phoenix each time. So, all right. I like her. I do. I like the confessional poets, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to write stuff like that. It has to start somewhere. Nowadays, it's just anybody can do it, and it's not a big deal. You know, anybody can say whatever they want in poetry, but it wasn't until the 1940s and that shift in writing that people like Sylvia Plath totally rocked the boat, and how we're allowed to, and what we're allowed to say and vocalize in literature. Does that make sense? Is it, I mean, I'm not giving discredit to the beatniks. All right. Some people That was their thing back then, but I can identify more with the confessional because my life took that turn during the 1990s. So I can't really understand the beatniks. My life wasn't like that. About after the 1990s, it kind of shifted. And from there, it went into more like Sylvia Plath. All right. Bye.